foundation. We do not have a lot of people. If mom and daddy both dropped out of high school, are they pushing me real hard to stay in high school? Go ask a high school guidance counselor, as I do. Why do kids drop out of school? Nobody at home is trying to keep them in school. I just finished a book this week, a fascinating little book. A professor at Temple University wrote it. It's called Beyond the Classroom. And I'm extremely interested in education, though I've never been an educator. But they gathered data from 20,000 teenagers over a 3-year period in 9 high schools, trying to figure out why are these kids so disengaged? And why are their parents so disengaged? And I know I was looking at some of it today. 40% of the parents of these high school kids never asked them what kind of grades they made at school. They could have cared less. And it said if you're between the ages of 10 and 16, your peer group has more impact on how you perform in school than your parents do. And a lot of kids, and then they broke it all down by ethnicity and other things like that. So we've got a whole bunch of stuff going on in this state and across this nation. We just don't understand the value of education. That is particularly true in Alabama. And I could preach you a long, long sermon about all that. One other thing, another date, 1897. We passed a law that said if you'll spend $50,000 on a cotton mill, we'll abate your taxes. Within 3 years, by 1900, we had over 30 cotton mills in the state of Alabama. And you look back on the way, and I used to be a local economic developer, and the way we thought you get success in Alabama was you face the north and you chant low taxes, cheap wages, cheap land. And that's what we did. And we looked to the Rust Belt, we looked to the New England, and we said, we'll take those jobs y'all have in your textile mills. And we did. And they were minimum skill, minimum wage, an awful lot of those workers were kids. But we did that for year after year after year. We never said the way to the future is by getting more education. We said, we'll sweat more for less than people in other parts of the world. And that's what we did. And then 20 years ago, we began to wake up and realize that there are people in parts of the world with countries that we can't even pronounce the name of, they'll sweat cheaper than we will. And you go to Andalusia, and you see a hulk or a wall across the south, and you see where used to be a sewing factory, what used to be a textile mill. And it's sitting there now. And we're twiddling our thumbs saying, henny penny, the sky fell. Well, it did fall. And it's only going to be education, in my opinion, that gets us out. But preaching education to people in Alabama is tough as hell because we've never really believed in it.
Well, I'm going to try and follow on those coattails a little bit. The simplest answer is probably. What we're seeing is for the way out is opportunities and the knowledge that they're there. When we compare some of the counties in Alabama, more recent history, we're seeing that Birmingham was supposed to be set up as the Pittsburgh of the South. It was supposed to be the big industrial advancement of the state of Alabama, supposed to bring in the money, supposed to pull us out of being the third poorest state in the nation. But it didn't happen. But you look at the poverty rate and the homeless rate in Madison County, where Huntsville is, it is lower than almost the rest of the nation. And if you look back over the last few years, the last century, you look at a city of Birmingham that tried to perpetuate the sweating to do more for less, and you look to Huntsville that was trying to keep up with times. It was trying to trade out for the modern technology from missile silos and then to the space program. It was bringing in money from other countries, let alone from other parts of the nation. It wanted to be on top of things. It was pulling in the education. It was the kids that were better, more educated than their parents before them because they saw all the opportunities around them was in education. It was being smarter, faster, better, and getting paid more for that than the other people in that city. In Birmingham, we see stagnation now. The jobs are going to other countries as opposed to bringing it in. And no one knows where the opportunities are. And when they find them, and when they are there and they find them, they're able to pull themselves out of poverty. With the support and the knowledge that they're there, people can move on. Unfortunately, people aren't connected, people aren't keeping the ear to the wind, and they accept being poor.
So it's both about our relationships, it's fundamentally about our relationships to each other and how we view our place in the world. That's what, as well as things like our loving low taxes. But I think that's also, I don't want to get to anyone telling me what to do. I don't want to give anybody else my money. And then when you need help, that you have difficulty forming the relationships and finding the support to move yourself. You got an addition.
Another comment about the book about Beyond the Classroom, it would be of interest to this group. When they looked at whites, blacks, Asians, and Latinos, and how they looked at schools, the Latinos and the African Americans, they were not concerned about failure. In other words, basically they said, if I can make a C and just graduate, I'm okay. The Asians said, if I make less than an A, Mom and Daddy are going to shoot me.
They got some tiger
So it was
mothers.
there's a whole bunch of just attitudinal things out there.
All right, my name's Kristen Allison, and I'm from Northeast Alabama Community College from Cy Epsilon. And my question coincides with a lot of things that you've already talked about, but it says, as long as the school budgets are reliant on property values, is it safe to assume that education will be lower for areas of high poverty due to lack of resources?
Larry, yes, that had your name all over it.
Actually, no. It would make sense you would say that, but if you look at the state school budgets, schools get money from three sources: the local, the state, and the feds. And when you look at all 132 systems or whatever it is, now we get a new system every few days, seems like. But actually, about a year ago, on a per pupil basis, the best funded school system in the state of Alabama was Linden. Who's from Marengo County? Anybody in here? Linden is the county seat in Marengo County, way down near Demopolis, but yet they had more money per pupil when you look at what the feds and everybody stacked up than Homewood or Mountain Brook had. So when you look across the board, there's not a great deal of differential in these, we add it all up. Now, there's a big differential in local support because Mountain Brook, pours the money into their schools. Hoover does, Vestavia does, most other places don't. But just saying that property tax here is low means we won't have good schools, that is not necessarily the case.
Have a few statistics for that too that says that more influential than per capita spending on students or teachers' salaries, the other things that are more important in achieving high standards in education, access to preschool programs, smaller class size, and interestingly enough, the income level and education level of the parents. And I think the data confirm there what I used to tell my daughters, and I believe it. The best teachers, the real teachers for any child, are the parents. Schools only provide opportunities for learning and for exercising that learning. Discipline, education, learning comes at home. And as Kristina mentioned about the configuration, the different configurations of our homes, my wife is now coordinator of career tech education in Shelby County, but she started out as a family and consumer sciences teacher at River Chase Middle School. And she said, it's amazing when you learn what the home life is like for so many of these children. It's amazing that they can function in an entire school day, much less learn anything. And so it's about relationships, it's about value. It's about valuing people, not just education. Education provides the opportunities. I'm not sure we value individuals as human beings enough to want them to improve by whatever means.
No matter where the funding comes from, it is a huge factor, whether it's the parents putting the money directly out of their pocket or whether it's coming from the taxes of property or whether it comes from taxes on cigarettes or oil or whatever the case is. It is vital. I had the opportunity of sitting in a classroom at Southgate in Birmingham. I couldn't stand an hour sitting there, let alone a whole school day. It was the most uncomfortable, I don't care if I was 10 or if I was 100, that was the most demeaning place for me to sit. There was nothing honorable about being in that room. There's nothing that drove me to take respect in what I'm doing. If my parents don't care, if my community doesn't care enough to put the funding into the school, why the hell should I care? But had the opportunity to then turn around to play with some of the kids, and they were so eager and thirsty to learn from people. It was amazing. They wanted to play basketball, they wanted to learn math, they wanted to do arts and crafts, they wanted to do everything. Because we were there and we wanted to do it. If the volunteers from the community show up, whether they've got the funding or not, if there's role models like we were saying earlier, if there's an opportunity and a reason to have that drive, the kids are going to learn. And if there's not funding for it, I don't know why the kid would want to learn.
Isn't it also where the funding goes? Because in the Birmingham city system, it's notorious for having too many administrators and not enough dollars in the classroom. We work in Birmingham city schools, and the bathrooms don't have toilet paper, which is just horrifying to me, and maybe that's something that's common that I don't know about. But it's where the dollars go. And so that's part of the issue. And Larry, do you have anything to add to this? Because I just feel like Lindsay brought up community.
I always got something to add.
Lindsay brought up community involvement, and I know that's something you're real passionate about.
3 years ago, in one of my former lives, we did a study of 10 what I call high poverty, high performing rural schools in the state. And they were all over the state, all the way from North Mobile County to Jackson County, somewhere in the Black Belt. Money is important in education, but money is not the deciding factor. Because these 10 schools, I can promise you, all of them are exceptional, and none of them have a whole lot of money. The most important thing in whether a school is good is who is in the principal's office. Now, you may have some outstanding teachers in a weak school. You will not have an outstanding school with a weak principal. And if I could magically do anything to help Alabama's education system, it would be to have a very strong principal in all 1,500 schools that we have across this state. But that is, and there's so many things we could talk about. But when I saw what the topic was, poverty and education, and it's something because I visit a lot of high poverty schools. I can't remember going into one that wasn't. You know, schools like this where it was all about 70% or higher free and reduced lunch. Poverty is just the symptom, or it's just the indicator of what that school is having to struggle with. It's not poverty that makes a kid's grades go down. It's what the life that poverty brings to that child.